Hi and welcome to episode 5 of the Chelmsford Property Show. My name's Neil Baldock.
I'm Matthew Baldock.
And we're the owners of Charles David Casson Estate Agents based in Chelmsford.
So, thank you to all of those that have been liking and sharing our posts and this Chelmsford Property Show. We really appreciate all the support. Again, if you have any questions, we're encouraging people to ask us questions and let us know what they're about.
Yeah, definitely. We'd really love to hear from you and get some interaction going.
So you can find us, obviously, the Facebook page is Charles David Casson Estates, or on Twitter, our handle is at CDC_Chelmsford, and you can use the hashtag Chelmsford Property Show. So this week, I've been speaking to a few different people, looking at the market and the buy-to-let market, and there's a bit of a buzzword around at the moment, which is HMO, and a few people asking me about it and what it kind of means. Now, while most of you know Neil's my little brother, so I don't like to give him too much credit, I will kind of say, in my opinion, he's the premier expert to go to on HMOs in Chelmsford. So I'm going to ask Neil a few questions, if you can kind of enlighten us on what HMOs are and that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
But by the same token, because he is my little brother, I haven't told him what questions I'm going to ask him, so we'll see if his knowledge really is all that we think it is. So, I mean, very simply, do you want to let us know what an HMO is?
Yeah, so the letters stand for a house of multiple occupation. In very basic terms, it's a shared house. People really, when they kind of hear about HMOs, think back to the programme Rising Damp. They're actually nothing like that. Certainly nothing we deal with is like that. But in very basic terms, it is a shared house.
Okay, so there's more than one person living in it, obviously.
That's right. So the actual definition is where 3 or more people from unrelated households are living in a property together.
Okay. And obviously, I know if you just buy a house and rent it out normally, obviously you're going to have to look at your mortgage and that kind of things, but there aren't too many permissions or licences, that kind of thing you need. With an HMO, is there a special licence that you have to get?
It depends on the size of the property and the number of floors it's over. So basically, the only time you would need a licence is when you've got 5 or more tenants, and this is the important bit, and it's over 3 or more floors. So the "and" is really important. So if we took a 3-bedroom semi, for instance, with 3 bedrooms upstairs, 2 reception rooms downstairs, we rented all 5 rooms out as bedrooms. That's a 5-bedroom HMO, doesn't need a licence because it's only over 2 floors. If we took a townhouse, for example, so it's over 3 stories, and we had 5 tenants in there or more, we had 6 tenants perhaps, that would need a licence because it's got the 5 tenants and it's over the 3 floors. Okay. So the "and" in the definition is really important. If you had a townhouse and you rented it out to 4 people, you wouldn't need a licence.
Right, fine. So it's "and" not "or", in the
Absolutely.
that people need to look at. Okay, fine, no problem. And in terms of if somebody wants to make an investment in property, I assume you get a better return with a house of multiple occupancy than a standard buy-to-let?
Yeah, you do, certainly in this area. In all likelihood, the purchase price might be slightly high. You might be looking for a slightly bigger house to start with. That's not always the case, though. You can buy a house and convert it into an HMO. So, but certainly, a standard buy-to-let in Chelmsford these days, we're looking 4.5% to 5% is a sort of general yield that can be achieved. With an HMO, we're generally aiming for a gross yield of somewhere around the 9-10%. So it's quite a difference.
Okay, fine. Are there any costings that an HMO landlord would have to look out for as opposed to just a standard buy-to-let?
Well, again, depends. Yes, there are. I mean, there's certain things you need in an HMO. So we're talking about fire doors. If you were a licensed HMO, first of all, the licence, which is £500 or £600 for the licence. The licence will last you for 5 years. There'll be more electrical regulations in an HMO. You have to have proper fire doors with fire door closers, a full fire alarm system. So yeah, there's more setup costs involved in it, but certainly the return on your money and the cash flow it generates is a lot different to a normal buy-to-let.
Okay. And in terms of a service that you can offer, the Wilford's agency, is managing an HMO compared to managing a standard, let property? Is it a lot more difficult?
Well, yeah, there's a lot more aspects to managing an HMO. So it's still one house at the end of the day, but you've got 5 or 6 people living in it rather than one family or one person. So you've got to look at the relationship side of that, is actually managing people and managing those people and how they live together. We do get the odd petty argument and things like that, and it's our job to kind of keep that under control. Then the most important bit is the business side of it. There will be bills that the landlord has to pay.
Okay.
So the council tax, the utility bills, that's the landlord's responsibility. Generally, when people rent a room, the rent will include the utility bills. So the tenants are looking for an all-inclusive rent to include all their outgoings.
So that's something that any landlords out there would have to factor in as a cost, would be the utility bills as well, obviously, to come off the bottom line.
That's right, yeah. So we're looking for a really high gross yield, and then our job in assisting a landlord is to bring their costs down to a level where we're still maximising their kind of net yield after tax and everything, and after all their expenses. There's certain systems in place to manage that. So we have systems in place so that we have control over the heating in the house, because you can imagine a tenant who's paying an all-inclusive rent isn't really bothered about if the heating's left on for 24 hours a day, because they're not paying for it.
No, we're leaving the lights on.
Yeah, if they go out, they'll leave all the lights on. They're not too worried about that. So, but from the landlord's point of view, we have to do things to manage those expenses.
Okay, fantastic. I imagine it's quite an in-depth subject, and probably not one that we can all encompass just with a few questions here today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's all sorts of things in terms of square footage, minimum square footages for rooms, minimum amount of worktops, appliances needed for the amount of tenants. So it's a really lengthy subject. So if anybody's interested in talking about it more, it's something I'm really passionate about, and I'd love to have a chat. I think the other thing to mention, we've sort of discussed it before, people have been surprised, is actually the quality of tenant.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what when I'm out and about discussing, people say to me, "Oh, what kind of tenants you're getting?" We kind of alluded to the old programme, The Rising Damp, which some of you will be old enough to remember, or student lets. But do you want to just give everybody kind of an idea of the quality of tenant that we're getting in our properties? Yeah,
so we don't deal with student houses. We don't deal with like DSS houses, that kind of thing. All our tenants are working, and depending on the particular HMO, we've got people. We've got just working people that work in shops and things like that, right up to we've got doctors, chemists, we've got school teachers living in them. I've mentioned the chemists. We've got social workers. So real sort of high-end professional people that we're working with.
Okay, fantastic. So hopefully that's been of use today, giving you a bit of insight and showing that Neil actually is an expert in this. If you want to discuss it any further, as Neil says, it's quite an in-depth subject, but one he genuinely enjoys discussing. You can give him a call on 01245 835 859, or I'm sure you won't mind if you email him, neil@charlesdavidcasson.co.uk. So that's all for the property show, the Chelmsford Property Show today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. If you could please give it a like and a share on Facebook, we really appreciate that. And again, if you want to send us any questions, you can do it on Facebook or via Twitter @CDC_Chelmsford, and use the hashtag the Chelmsford Property Show. And that's all for now. We look forward to seeing you next week.